Gadadhar Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so we've broken into, I think this is the wrong chapter, that's for sure. Part 2. Okay, what volume I got up here? So part 2, Shri Goloka Mahatmya.
Vairagya.
Vairagya. No, that's Krishna. I should have been sorry.
We stopped at a very long purport. Remember, we started reading a little bit, then we thought.
I'm just trying to get the volume up. I mean, this is obviously the wrong volume. This is going straight into chapter 5, which is not what we want. Krishna. Right, I'm just going to turn off the volume. And give me 1 minute. Everyone can chant Hare Krishna while I'm trying to sort out the things here. Okay, thank you.
Got it.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your patience. Okay,
Thank you.
Here we go. So let's begin reading. Let's have some volunteers to read text 20. So we think we started it. We got into 2 paragraphs and we didn't want to rush through it. So we might as well just read again from the beginning. This text 20. Anyone can read the whole purple. A few pages there.
Okay. Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yeah, now I can't scroll back one second. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Sorry, who's reading?
You can read. Yeah, go ahead. Let's start reading before anything else goes wrong.
Okay, text 20.
Yes.
They have all attained the ultimate limit of happiness, each in his own kind of aesthetic reciprocation with the Lord. But what place is destined for the exceptional devotees of the performer of the rasa dance? Commentary. Well, someone might ask, if there is a hierarchy of greater and lesser devotees in Vaikuntha, then only some of them are fully happy. And is that proper? Aren't devotees of the Supreme Lord, especially those who have attained Vaikuntha, greater than mere liberated souls? Don't they enjoy the highest happiness above that of liberation? The current verse clears this doubt. All the residents of Vaikuntha enjoy incomparable happiness, but some gradation of happiness still exists because each devotee relishes a mixture of ecstasies that make up his individual devotional mood or rasa. It is natural, therefore, according to a devotee's Sthitabhav, the predominating mood of his aesthetic ras, he receives a particular degree and kind of happiness. Nonetheless, each devotee thinks that his happiness is perfect and complete because it exactly suits his personality. Having acknowledged this, Mother Uttara next expresses her own doubt about the devotees of Krishna, whose spontaneous love for the Lord is greater than all other varieties of prema. In Vaikuntha, is there a special place where these devotees can enjoy the supreme happiness they deserve? Within Uttara's questions are the following implication. The Suddha Bhaktas in their worship of the Supreme Lord enjoy greater ecstasy than the Jnana Bhaktas. But although the devotees in Vaikuntha find themselves in a hierarchy that would normally cause envy, quarrel, and other kinds of conflict, those devotees are free from jealousy and other faults, which are the root causes of pain and lamentation. Without this purity, they could not reside in Vaikuntha. Being affectionately attached to one another in sublime prema, they all feel ever-increasing happiness in their own worship of the Lord. As already mentioned, the Suddha Bhaktas, whose devotion to the Lord does not depend on the pleasure of life in Vaikuntha, are higher than the more conditional Jnana Bhaktas. That being so, what about the status of devotees still more elevated? What about the Lord's best servants, the Prema Bhaktas, who are indifferent to all possible selfish concerns? What about the Lord's supreme friends, the Prema Para Bhaktas, who receive his unconditional special favor? And what about his closest loved ones, the Premature Bhaktas, who are bound by the more intimate relationship with the Lord?
By the most intimate relationships.
Are bound by the most intimate relationships with the Lord, and who only live only for his satisfaction. What special place can be found in Vaikuntha for those super excellent devotees? The Skanda Purana explains that exceptional regions do exist in Vaikuntha. As mentioned before, Vaikuntha has transcendental cities such as Ayodhya and Dwarka, and like their counterparts on earth, they are filled with the Supreme Lord's personal associates and paraphernalia. In these supreme places, the Lord is always present in his most attractive forms. Thus, for example, in the Ayodhya region of Vaikuntha, devotees of the standard of Hanuman constantly see the Lord of the Raghus, Lord Ramchandra, attended by Sri Sita, Lakshmana, and the rest of his entourage. Those devotees continue to enjoy the happiness of being his servants, just as they did while present with the Lord during his pastimes on earth, and their ambitions are fulfilled in every conceivable way. Similarly, in the Dwarka of Vaikuntha, devotees like Sri Yudhishthira and his family worship Krishna as the darling son of Devaki, the friend of Arjuna, the younger brother of Balaram, the beloved of Rukmini and Satyabhama. The Pandavas continue to serve Krishna in their own homes with the same friendship as during his avatara. And also in Dwarka, the Yadavs, including exalted souls like Uddhava, worship and serve Krishna as their own master, regarding him as more valuable than their wealth, their power, and their very lives. In the endless manifold transformations of pure love, the Yadavas, their inner and outer consciousness, surcharged with bliss, enjoy as much happiness as they desire. In Vaikuntha, these devotees enjoy life just as they did when present with their most dear Lord on earth, where they enjoy the supreme good fortune of serving his lotus feet, receiving his mercy, relishing pure love for him, and sharing in his pastimes. That the Supreme Lord's earthly and Vaikuntha pastimes have these features in common does not diminish the greatness of the spiritual world, because whether in the material or the spiritual world, all the Lord's devotees are objects of his infinite compassion. Even if devotees occupy higher and lower positions, the differences pale beside the inconceivably desirable, overwhelming ecstasies of pure love of God. Still, we should recognize a natural hierarchy in the varieties of devotional service, because Jnana Bhaktas harbor some attachment to knowledge. The pure ecstasies of prema do not develop in their hearts, even while they live in Vaikuntha. The transcendental happiness they deserve is confined mostly to their mental activities. Should the bhaktas enjoy a greater happiness, which enlivens all their senses through hearing and chanting about the Lord, remembering him, and so on, and prema bhaktas feel ever greater happiness through all their internal and external senses, because while seeing the Lord and serving him in various ways, they constantly meditate on him with love. Prema parabhaktas cherish yet a higher standard of happiness, which they taste in their friendly dealings with the Lord, in their talking freely with him, and in the intense moods of separation and meeting. That transcendental happiness floods their entire being. And Prematura Bhaktas know the ultimate extreme of happiness. They are immersed in the unending and most intense loving expectation of seeing the Lord, sharing pastimes with him, and exchanging countless intimate dealings with him. Every fiber of the existence is surcharged with such happiness, which always exceeds their greatest expectations. Therefore, since various levels of sadhana bring various degrees of perfection, it is undeniable that in Vaikuntha, where happiness reaches its ultimate limits, some devotees enjoy more happiness and some less. And in the final issue, those who practice the highest mode of Lord's devotional service achieve one last extreme of perfection, the ecstasy known only by those whose love focuses exclusively on the lotus feet of the divine paramour of the gopis. Relative to this, the position of all other devotees is inferior. The nature of Vaikuntha, the spiritual kingdom, is such that each devotee, regardless of his mood of devotion, feels that in pursuing the tendencies of his heart in his own relationship with the Lord, the happiness he tastes is unsurpassable. Still, Uttara wants to know what special destination awaits the Lord's most exceptional devotees, those overflowing with spontaneous love for the lotus feet of Sri Nanda Kipura.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Mo, for that reading.
Thank you. It's very nice.
Yes, very deep subject.
Very intense.
Very
natural.
natural.
Yes. But just seems like hearing about reading this, the common phenomena in the spiritual realm is the management or the experience of different waves and different moods of happiness, which is happiness, or which is love for Krishna. Here it's mainly speaking about Vaikuntha at the moment, and next we'll be describing, because Mother Uttara is asking, having understood something about the love in Vaikuntha, what about the experience of those in the highest realm? Yeah, which will be spoken of in the next few verses, I think. But dare I ask for any questions on this? I'm not sure if I'm about to answer it.
And it's just the last bit I just love, and she says that Uttara wants to know the special destination about, that's wonderful. She wants to know more, which I think we all want to know that as well, what she's going to say.
But here, what was I going to say? Just lost my mind. Yeah, here, but the it's okay. The emphasis here is on although objectively there is different degrees and different levels of intensity of the experience of prema. Mm-hmm. Objectively, subjectively, each one. Let me get that around there. A bit tired again, but objectively, we can observe that there is differences in the experience of prema. But subjectively, the person actually situated in that particular Stehi Bhav. So Stehi Bhav means, like Mother Yasoda's, as we know from our readings in Nectar of Devotion, her Stehi Bhav is parental love. the Stahi Bhav of the gopis is conjugal love. Yeah. So that's a Stahi Bhav, and that Stahi Bhav isn't, again, it's not static, it's ecstatic. So there's different waves of prema is experienced within that relationship with Krishna. Yeah, so it gets heightened due to different pastimes, etc. Yeah. So in comparison to and the nature of the relationship of the rasa, say the highest, which I'm sure we've worked it out for now, the experience exchange of sweetness and rasa, is that in a relationship between Krishna and the gopis. Yeah, that exchange of love and affection. But having said that, it's not like Mother Yasoda is feeling left out. No, she's completely saturated and completely saturated and completely immersed in very deep ecstasy of the relationship of parenthood for her son, for her darling son. So all these prema bhaktas, they are not feeling like, generally in the material world, everyone feels like there's something missing. They're always not complete. Yeah, but they all feel complete in their specific relationship with the Lord. Yep. Hanuman is never lamenting because he's not a gopi. He's not, that doesn't happen. He's not, or Prahlad is not lamenting that he's not like that he's not like Nanda Maharaj, which is, you could say, is often seen as maybe more intimate. No, they're completely, but they praise, as we know, we've been hearing about these, when Narada Muni visits these devotees, they're not all full of adoration for those above their Pacific station. But it's not like, in other words, it's not like the experience of the material world, where generally people feel inferior, they feel, and the emotions we experience here is not based on love. It's the emotion of anxiety, the emotion of uncertainty, the emotions of the material world, depression, etc. Yeah, here in the material world, actually, the state of anxiety and stress that people feel is kind of, you could say, it's painful. How distressed and anxiety and what happens to people in this material world, being abused or being subject to different types of horrific crimes and tortures. It's kind of, yeah. So these are the type of horrific, I guess, in the material world. This is what we're experiencing here: Adi Bautic, Adi Daiving, and Adhyatmic. And that's the conversation, really. You know, when probably some of you, I mean, I know sometimes when I overhear old age pensioners speaking together in the past, I've heard it, and they're all sharing stories of how bad their body is, you know. And I guess we do the same to one degree or another. But not here, but there in the spiritual world, it's a complete different experience. It's that the experience of love and happiness is like an unlimited ocean. You know, so this is what's being described here.
This is what we are hankering. So.
Yeah. Okay. So if there's any, unless there's some other comments on that or some questions, we can read the next verse. Let me see anyone like to read?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll have text 21.
Yeah, text 21. They chant his names and are full of unique love for him. Indifferent to everything else, they want only to become servants of Sri Radha. Commentary. The devotees of Sri Radha, who is the dearmost beloved of Lord Madan Gopal, are not impersonalists void of desires. They are fully confident that if Sri Radha accepts them as her servants, everything they desired will be achieved, and more. The privilege of serving Sri Radha is the rarest goal of life, and it is fitting that this privilege be attainable only by executing the most excellent of sadhanas. That is to say, one can please her divine grace only by the sacrifice of purely chanting the names of Sri Rasa Rasika, the hero of the Rasa dance. In sweet voices, the servants of Sri Radha always melodiously and loudly chant Krishna's names. Such devotees are worthy to engage in such elevated service because their hearts are filled with the supreme variety of spontaneous ecstatic love for Krishna.
Okay, so let's just pause here. Yeah, what's being described here is being a servant of Shri Radha, being a maidservant of Shri Radha. Just like, I don't know, somebody might be reading, but there's a latest book by His Holiness Srila Shivaram Swami. It's called Vilapa Kusmanjali. It's all about Raghunath Das Goswami, who's relating to Radha as her maidservant. Yep. So this is, and I just heard today, Srila Prabhupada was explaining that this is generally the goal or aspiration of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, to become Radha's maidservant. Although there may be other aspirations as well, but generally our acharyas are in this mood. Yeah. So it's said here, by executing the most excellent of sadhanas. So this is not Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And it's just what it is at the end, it's a Raganuga sadhana bhakti, that one attains that goal, yeah, of serving Radha. Not Krishna. Yeah, that's the goal. Interesting, that's the goal of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, is to be servants of Shri Radha. Yeah, it's quite a topic in of itself. Any questions about that? Yeah, they chant his names and are full of unique love for him, Krishna. Indifferent to everything else, they want only to become servants of Radha. All right, so perhaps we read on, see what else is going to be revealed here. So text 22. So perhaps you can read another verse, relatively short purport.
Text 22. If those special devotees attain only the same perfection as others, my heart will be left discontent. For such devotees as Nanda and Yashoda to reach only the same destination, to me the very thought is intolerable. Commentary. Someone might propose that Sri Mathurapuri, like Ayodhya and Dwaraka, may be located in Vaikunta. The devotees of Radha and Krishna may thus have their Vaikunta Gokula, where they can enjoy pastimes with the Lord and feel happiness greater than that of the Yadavas. Just as the Yadavas enjoy happiness greater than that of the Pandavas, Uttara, however, is not satisfied with this proposal. She cannot tolerate having the devotees of Gokula categorized with other ordinary Vaishnavas.
Okay. So remember that description, it sounds quite contradictory. Here it says, Vaikunta Gokula. So can anyone tell us in what way Radha and Krishna are worshipped in Vaikunta Gokula? We read it last week, I think.
Oh, and reverence.
Yeah. Vaikunta is not Narayan.
Oh, and reverence.
Yeah, it's not the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. Or Hari. It's actually the worship of Radha and Krishna, but it's done in the mood of awe and reverence. Yeah, not like the worship of the gopis, who do not see Radha and Krishna as being the source of creation. Yeah, where they will offer them very special sweet services. Yeah, but here in Vaikuntha Gokul, they will worship as Lakshmi, but actually worshiping Radha Krishna. So it's interesting. I've never heard of that place before, but here that's why I thought it was interesting when we read about it last week. So everyone's clear on that. So Vaikuntha Gokula is a place where Radha and Krishna are worshipped with in the mood of awe and reverence. And that reminds me, last week I think I made a mistake when I was speaking about the relationship in Vaikuntha, that it's all Dasya-ras, but it's not, because Vishnu is there with the Lakshmis. So there is conjugal relationship with the Lord of Vaikuntha. Because Nrsimhavaji happened to be overhearing Prabhu because he was here last week. And when I finished the class, then he said, actually, what you were saying was wrong. Oh, yes, I kind of went down a rabbit hole and was discussing one specific point. So just in case, if any of you remember that, but actually there is a relationship with conjugal, but the Lakshmis, their worship is very much in awe and reverence. Yeah. They are not going to become angry or chastise Krishna for whatever, or Vishnu for whatever reason. Their mood is very awe and reverential towards Yadupati, towards the Lord of the Vaikunthas. Yeah, so I just want to clear that up, just in case. All right. Any questions then on this? Yeah, I can't quite understand it yet here. It says, Uttara, however, is not satisfied with this proposal. So what proposal is that? If those special devotees attain only the same perfections as others. Okay. All right, so as far as I understand, she's hinting at, and she wants to hear about a place higher than Vaikuntha. Because the love that Nanda and Yasoda have, and the gopis and the gopas, is unmatched in its nature as in comparison to those in Vaikuntha. So she's very, very intelligently, she has concluded that there must be another place for those devotees to reside, other than what's been spoken of so far. Yeah, that's why she says she's not satisfied with the proposal. There must be a place or a realm where these extra special devotees reside. Yeah, they can't be ordinary. Interesting in called here ordinary Vaishnavas. No Vaishnava is ordinary, but objectively speaking, these are superlative devotees who have the highest love for Krishna. Yeah, that makes more sense, having read that again. All right, let's read more and more and more. Okay, anybody else?
I was thinking,
yeah,
I was thinking, when Devaki, like Uttara would know about Devaki and Vasudev's love, and that's different to Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj's love for Krishna.
Yes. I mean, Uttara, Uttara would know of that, but she's heard, because she's heard from she's heard from her son, who has heard from Sukadev Goswami, who has heard about, we've got the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, and we just heard in the previous volume about Krishna's ecstasy in feeling separation from Vrindavan. Yeah. And then, so she's just heard about all of that, so she's understood these are different devotees. Yeah. So now she's curious. She wants to hear more about that. Yeah. But you're right. Yeah. She would know of the relationship.
Different relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. And the primary difference is, which leads to which a more intimate expression of love, is that the residents of Vrindavan are kind of so overwhelmed with Krishna's sweetness and these sweet exchanges of love that it powers into insignificance, even if Krishna happens to be God. For them, it doesn't it doesn't impress them because they're overwhelmed with how beautiful and sweet and his exchanges are. You know. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go.
And I was
Please.
also thinking why we should go to be maidservant of Radharani, because Krishna is surrendered to Radharani, isn't he? So if we want Krishna, we have to do what he prefers.
Yeah, you could look at it like that.
I was just thinking like that. You know?
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if I get this right, he says, we worship Krishna because he worships our
Yes.
Radha. Yeah. So therefore, that's basically we're focused on Radha, and we give credence to Krishna because he worships Radha very nicely.
So it's like Madan Mohan and Madan Mohan Mohini.
Yeah, that's it. She who attracts the attractor of Cupid.
Cupid.
Yeah. I think we mentioned before in our Nectar of Devotion readings or elsewhere that actually we join the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and that's our preaching. We preach about Krishna, and we don't preach about Radharani, especially not on the street or in general. But actually, more from another look, actually, as the devotees advance, actually, really, it's the International Society for Radha Consciousness. But that's not going to come.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
But that's not going to come in. That's not going to be so relevant to the general body of devotees. But as we've been reading, as one advances, then that's the path that we learn, that we are, or that we hear about, and that's the path that some devotees may take in desiring to become Radha's maidservant. Yeah, it's a whole big subject. For instance, Rati Manjari, which is Raghunath Das Goswami in his Siddha form, she's only absorbed in Radha. Her whole life air is centered around serving Radha, and she will never give that up for anything. Wow. Not to become Krishna's servant, nothing. She's only attached to Radha. You know. That's Manjari, serving Radha. All right.
I will read now.
Yeah, go ahead. Text 23. Am I in the right verse?
Sorry?
Yeah, carry on.
Varied and countless excellencies flow into those devotees like rivers into the ocean. Commentary. All varieties of perfection are fully manifest in the devotees of Gokul. Those devotees are perfectly beautiful, charming, and graceful, and they are endowed with the valuable assets of religious duty, economic development, sense gratification, renunciation, knowledge, realization, devotion, and pure love of God. All these perfections are present within them to the utmost degree possible for finite living beings. Whenever Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita depicts the glories of devotees lesser than the residents of Gokul, its purpose is to highlight the greater glories of the Golokvasis and demonstrate that all the varieties of excellence flow ultimately into the residents of Gokul, just as the waters of all rivers flow at last into the ocean.
Okay, let's just pause there if there's any questions there or any comments. Okay, I was going to bring up here, these devotees are perfectly beautiful, charming, and graceful, and they are endowed with valuable assets of religious duty, economic development, and sense gratification. What does that mean? What do these terms mean? So they're perfect. It sounds like a material qualification, isn't it? Economic development and sense gratification. In what way are the residents of Gokul, why is this given as a perfection? It sounds quite materialistic. I can understand renunciation, knowledge, realization, devotion, pure love of God, but yes, these perfections are fully realized in the residents of Gokul. Sense gratification. We always hear about sense gratification in a negative sense of the term. That sense gratification, Prabhu. Yeah, like the other day on book distribution, someone had given the devotees a tin of chocolates, Twix and Mars and all these things in it. There's a big philosophical debate. What do we do with this tin of chocolates that's been given to us? Do we give it to people? Well, yes, in one sense, but no, because you can't offer it. It's been made by non-devotees, and it's probably full of eggs and all types of unmentionable things. But surely they will benefit if a devotee gives them the sweet. So he's having a debate on the book table what to do with this tin of chocolates. So then they come and ask me, I guess I was senior. So I thought, wow, okay, what to do? Well, just throw it in the bin. So that's sense gratification. So we threw it in the bin. So anyway, what's sense gratification in Gokul? What does it mean? It means they got, yeah, go on, expand on that more.
You want to serve Krishna, so all the senses are completely diverted in the service of Krishna. That's sense gratification for them.
Yeah, thank you. I guess it was quite straight. It was quite easy. Yeah, that's it. Like it's not this sense gratification that's found in the material world, but their senses are spiritual. They're controlled by love, by Krishna, the master of the senses, and all their senses are completely absorbed in the loving service of the Lord, smelling his scent of his body, etc., seeing his beautiful form and pastimes. They are completely satiated. Yeah, thank you, Mother Rajkishore. Yeah. Okay, is that clear? And economic development, yeah. There's no lacking there. There's no want there. Everything is completely, everything to aid their comfort and service to the Lord is fully manifest there in every detail. There's no lacking of anything. All right, so yeah, thank you for that, Raj Kishore. So you like to read this verse as well, text 24?
Okay, text 24. Therefore, a suitable place must surely exist for them beyond Vaikuntha. Please reveal it to me and rescue me. Commentary. In this verse, Mother Uttara sums up her inquiry. She reasons that there must be some place even greater than Vaikuntha, a place suitable for the enjoyment of devotees like Sri Nanda and Yashoda. That place should have certain qualifications. It should be devoid of thought that the Lord is the supreme, all-powerful controller. In other words, it should be free from awe and reverence. It should be untainted by flows that impede the growth of ecstatic love. It should be invisible to those who are addicted to dry knowledge. It should be approachable only by those dearmost servants of the Lord who delight in being caught under the sway of prem, untested in this world or any other. That place should be the quintessence of attractiveness, a place fully enriched with the unique, undescribable bliss of transcendental rasa. It should be sweeter than the sweet, superior to the superior, describable only by great saints who forever relish the taste of Sri Krishna's lotus feet, saints like Narada, for surely he must sing the glories of that place with his Veena. Such a unique place must certainly exist, Uttara thinks, but because it is most confidential and I am not very intelligent, I am unable to ascertain its identity. Therefore, lost in an ocean of sadness, in waves of doubt, in deep currents of confusion, she asks her son Parikshit to reveal that place to her by describing it in the words. By doing this, he will lift her out of the ocean of sorrow. Of course, the blessed district of Mathura, the best of all places, is already manifest on earth and can most certainly provide Sri Nanda and other the exceptional happiness of taking part in the Lord's wonderful pastimes. But Uttara has doubts because that Mathura is within the material world. Thus, she is asking whether another transcendental location exists for the pastime of Krishna and his favorite devotees. To external vision, the modern residents of the earthly Mathura seem subject to the bodily transformations of disease, old age, and death, and so appear entangled in the mundane illusion. Unlike the Lord's abode in Vaikuntha, the Mathura on earth does not seem to award immediate perfection to everyone who merrily steps into it. So Uttara doubts whether the earthly Mathura is in fact the ultimate goal of human endeavor, and she suspects that at the time of the universal annihilation or of the partial annihilation of the three middle planetary systems, the district of Mathura may disappear. This question raised by Mother Uttara, although subtle and therefore difficult, will gradually be answered by Parikshit through the story of Gopakumar. First, Parikshit will describe Sri Golok in the spiritual world as a destination of Krishna's most intimate devotees. And then he will speak about the pleasures, pastimes. Krishna performs both there, the devotees, pleasure pastimes. Krishna performs both there and in Mathura on the earth. Although the earthly Mathura is located within the material realm, it remains untouched by the influence of illusion, just as the Supreme Lord himself and his devotees and his pastimes remain unaffected by illusion when they descend to the material world. As Sri Narad Muni will state later in Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrut 2.5.55. The Lord's name, his pastimes, and his favorite abodes, and everything that has to do with his service can assume various forms, and you should know that just as all these are eternally real, each of them is simultaneously one and many. Yogmaya, the spiritual energy of the Lord, arranges for the present-day residents of Mathura to appear to undergo material transformations. The Lord's spiritual energy does this to delude the non-devotees and satisfy the Lord's devotees, just as she prevents non-devotees from feeling ecstasy even after having personal audience of the Lord, the embodiment of the highest bliss. This subject will be explained later in the narration of Gopakumar's sojourn to Tapoloka. That the glories of earthly Mathura was hidden from ordinary eyes indicates the greatness of that abode. Indeed, the earthly Mathura and its glories are eternal. They are not destroyed even when the universe is annihilated. Devotees who think that Mathura may in future disappear are mistaken, because in fact Mathura is beyond destruction, even by the Lord's ultimate divine weapon, the Sudarshan disc, which is the governing force underlying material time, the destroyer of the worlds. All the same, Mother Uttara is asking about some other supreme place, because the greatness of earthly Mathura is not at once perceived, and because many people have not heard about the wonderful activities of personality of Godhead displayed there. In fact, the glories of earthly Mathura in some ways surpass those of the spiritual planet Golok. And Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita, therefore, will describe how Gop Kumar, after realizing the glories of Golok, learned about this from Sri Nanda, the original person. Narada, sorry, Sri Narada. The original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, descends to Mathura in this world with all his beauty and other attributes to exhibit unprecedented playful activities. And when the entire universe or the three middle planetary systems are destroyed, the earthly Mathura becomes invisible and merges back into Sri Golok. In other words, Mathura is not destroyed. It remains unchanged above the wheel of time. But because of the Lord's pastimes are then no longer perceivable in Mathura on earth, it seems that the personality of Godhead continues to enjoy himself only in the corresponding spiritual realm, Golok. And so Sri Golok is considered the ultimate destination of spiritual endeavor. Sri Narad may sometimes ascribe to Mathura on earth glories even greater than those of Golok, but that is not contradictory, since the two places are in essence non-different. Whatever is said about one of them is true for the other. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading. So, another long purport, wonderful purport by Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu. Anything we can bring out of here? Perhaps someone could say what one of the main points being described here in this purport. Something upon hearing it that you thought, oh, that's interesting. I put you on the spot again.
This Mathura, I mean the worldly Mathura, what we have, Bhauma, is not going to be destroyed. It will merge back into the other Mathura. And that seems,
yeah.
All the planetary system from up to the Maharlok, they are destroyed when there's a partial annihilation going on. But Mathura is not. So that seems a little bit contradictory.
Yeah, I mean, I think to really understand this purport, I think, or this commentary, one has to sit down with a pen and paper. And because it's non-different, sometimes the descriptions of, because it's non-different, it's simultaneously one and different than Goloka. So sometimes the oneness is spoken of, and sometimes the difference is spoken of. So it might get confusing. Yeah. But ultimately, Mother Uttara, as far as I can make out, she's looking at Mathura and she's observing what we could say the material aspect of it. Yeah, because she's present there. She was present there when Krishna was present. She's seeing Mathura. She's seeing there, it seems, let's just read that. She's seeing the frailties of, which is part of this material world. Was that correct? She's seeing actually that this Mathura actually, although she's heard praises of it, but she's been heard praise of it in relationship to its apakrata aspect. But then there's another aspect of the spiritual of Mathura that seems quite ordinary. So again, she's concluding there must be a place where there is none of the discrepancies that are found in the material world. There must be no old age, actually. You follow? I'm making sense here? everyone's fallen asleep. Yeah. So then she, so she's wants to understand more. She wants to actually hear. She understands there must be a place. Although she's saying, I probably, due to my intelligence, and I may not be able to understand, but please, you actually tell me. Yeah. And then at the end, that's why it's quite, again, perhaps we just have to accept we can't fully understand it. But then Gopi Puranadana speaks of, in one sense, it's being annihilated. But then from another perspective, it's not actually annihilated. Yeah, it becomes part of Goloka in the complete annihilation of the cosmic manifestation. So that's another detailed description, which I always pictured that the earthly Mathura would stay and be untouched by the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. But it seems it is wound up, but it's not affected in that it enters into the Goloka. Is that what he said at the end? Let's read that again. In fact, the glories of earthly Mathura in some way surpass those of the spiritual planet Goloka. Therefore, Bhagavatam would describe how Gopakumar, after realizing the glories of Goloka, learn about this from Sri Narada, the original personality. He descends to Mathura in this world of all its beauty and other attributes and exhibits playful activities. And here, the entire universe of the three middle planetary systems are destroyed. The earthly Mathura, so there is an earthly Mathura, that's the Prakata, not the Apakrata, becomes invisible and merges back into Goloka. In other words, Mathura in that sense is not destroyed, it remains unchanged, above the wheel of time. But because the Lord's pastimes are then no longer perceivable in Mathura on earth, it seems that the personality of Godhead continues to enjoy himself only in the corresponding spiritual realm. So I guess we may understand it another way, like if you go to Vrindavan, and we read about Vrindavan, isn't it? We read about Vrindavan in the books of the Goswamis, we read about Vrindavan in the 10th canto, we read about Vrindavan in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read about Vrindavan and we hear about Vrindavan. And then you go to Vrindavan and it ain't what you be reading about. It's kind of quite different. Of course, those of you who've been, you know what to expect. So in one sense, we can understand perhaps Mother Uttara, she's in this mindset. She's heard so much about the glories of Mathura, but actually she sees people dying there. She sees people with disease. So she's concluding there must be somewhere else. There must be another place where there must be another manifestation. So perhaps we can look at it like that. That's how she's and that's what she wants clarification from her son about. Anyway, again, I think to really understand it, you need to pen and paper and write down exactly what Gopi Pranadana is describing here. Anyway, I don't know if that helped what I described there. Perhaps that might have, just by, as like we go to Vrindavan and we may not see the Vrindavan that's described in the Krishna book. We may not, we probably, good chance we won't. But still, Prabhupada says that even that aspect is very purifying and it's very special, as those who have been can readily experience. Anyway, any comments on that? I rambled on there a bit, and it's got 2 minutes. Let me just read this. So we finished that section there. So now there might be some answers to her questions. So text 25. Sri Jaimini said, so who's Jaimini?
It's one of the disciples of Vyasadeva who put the Mahabharata and some of the Vedas into writing.
Speaking to here. Who's he speaking to? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Yeah, it said Shriya Jaimini said. So it's Jaimini who's relating this whole conversation between Uttara and Parikshit. So perhaps we'll have to go back, but we won't go back now to find out. But anyway, let's continue. Sri Jaimini said, delighted by this most pleasing inquiry from Mother Uttara, her son Parikshit bowed down to her and began his reply. Tears poured from his eyes and his bodily hair stood on end. Commentary. Parikshit will begin to reply by complimenting his mother for her excellent question and by offering respects to his worshipful Lord. Text 26. Sri Parikshit said, let's see how long this purport is. Let's just read this one. My dear mother, for you who live only for Sri Krishna, separation from him is intolerable. This question of yours is most praiseworthy. No one has ever asked this question before. Commentary. Parikshit wishes to encourage his mother so that her mind will easily focus on what he's about to say. He calls her Shri Krishna Jivata, which means either one who lives only for Krishna or one whom Sri Krishna brought back to life. The second meaning, alluding to Krishna's saving the life of Uttara by stopping the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. Uttara is known for having suffered greatly in separation from Krishna, as Sutta Goswami described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, and Gandhari, and Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsu, Kripacharya, and Nakulan Sahadev, Bhimashena, and Yoma, and ladies such as the daughters of Matsya, all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Krishna. King Virata, the father of Uttara, was adopted along with his sister Satyavati by a fisherman Matsya. Since Virata was also called Matsya, the name Matsya Sutta, daughter of a fisherman, can indicate either Satyavati or her niece Uttara. If we take the second of these alternatives, Uttara is mentioned twice in these two verses, indicating that she hankered for Krishna in separation even more intensely than the others. Therefore, it is quite appropriate for her to ask so confidentially about Krishna's devotional service. Taveva yogya prashna means the only relevant question is yours, tava eva. Few other persons would have the proper devotional attitude to ask such a question. All right. So when we begin hearing the answer next week. All right. So we stop there, everyone. It's okay. Unless there's any last comments or questions. Okay. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And if we have 14 devotees with us this evening, hope you enjoyed hearing about Vaikuntha and hearing a little about Goloka Vrindavan and the glories of Uttara. And we're stopped there. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
should be
Murli
okay for next Monday, I think. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhupada ki
Keep
jai.
right, Murli Prabhu ki
Murli Prabhu
jai.
ki jai.
For the lovely
Krishna,
breakfast.
Hare Hare,
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.